Hi there, this is your man Afro Perspective. I'm going to talk about the issue of xenophobia in Southern Africa. The reason why I've decided to focus on this issue is simply because the issue has been covered in newspapers both inside and outside of South Africa. So now I will concentrate on South Africa and give the background on how we are where we are. And there is a widespread feeling amongst ordinary most ordinary South Africans that the fruits of the democratic dispensation that came into being in 1994 have not trickled down to the man and woman on the streets of townships such as Kaelicha and Soweto. The successive ANC administrations have failed to tackle the evils of unemployment, homelessness, lack of access to basic services such as health and an education geared for the challenges of the modern world. Instead, the ANC government has focused on creating a corporate elite to sit on the boards of companies listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Here, names like the current head of state, Cyril Ramaphosa, come to mind, and besides Mr. Ramaphosa being chairman of the Shanduka group of companies, he has been chairman of industries such as MTN and Bidvest. And then you have got Tokyo Setswale of CEO of the Lapanda group of companies, and the third man on the list. These are just examples. Some people might know of other people who are beneficiaries of the black empowerment, black economic empowerment policies of the ANC government. Then we have got Patrice Motsepe of African Rainbow Minerals, and now most of you would accuse me of laying the blame for the social ills burdening South Africa on successive ANC governments. This is not to suggest that the ANC governments, successive ANC government, have not done anything. Immediately after the democratic dispensation of 1994, President Mandela constructed houses, what are now called RDP houses, and there were initiatives like the setting up of a safety net in social grants. And now the problem with South Africa is that it has experienced 100 years of institutionalized segregation and dispossession of land for the majority of black South Africans. Um, Most school textbooks teach us that the National Party government of Daniel Malan started the policy of apartheid, and that is a gross oversimplification, simply for the simple reason that by the early 1900s, Cecil John Rhodes at the Cape Colony had already started laying the groundwork for apartheid by introducing restrictions on the voting rights of black Africans, punitive racially based masters and servants legislation, and a poll tax for black African people only. Then in 1948, what the National Party government simply did was to codify what had been a fact of South African life and spread the apartheid to the rest of South Africa by codifying the segregation into the South African Constitution. Speaking of dispossession, a classic illustration of the practice was the policy of homelands, what were pejoratively referred to as Bantustans. And then there was Bantu education, a cornerstone of successive National Party governments and an attempt at social engineering. That is the meddling in the setup of society to achieve certain ends. And well, people have a long pointed out that political elites of successive apartheid regime deliberately set out to create a black underclass with a vast majority educated to serve as nannies, gardeners, and for those who manage to squeeze themselves into metropolitan areas like Johannesburg and Cape Town, scraping a living as security guards and errand boys. No, the Oran boys were actually men, but then in apartheid, sort of like the apartheid mindset, grown-up black African men were referred to as boys. It is within this context that one has to grapple with the enormity of the job facing successive ANC administration. They have been given the task of undoing the legacy of nearly a century of institutionalized segregation, and then from 1948 onwards, nearly 60 years of apartheid. They have tried, but one has to accept that 25 plus years is not just enough. Such realities have forced the majority of black South Africans to invent the boogeyman, a simplified narrative of naive explanation for the ills of facing South Africa. Is the phenomenon of the stranger in our midst, this foreigner, the villain, the social punching bag, and it has been a convenient explanation for the shortage in housing, lack of formal jobs, and lack of basic services. This is not to suggest that the organizations at the community level or the social level have not been set up to address such issues as social housing without pointing the finger at the so-called Kwerekwere, a disparaging and dehumanizing term for the idea of the stranger in our midst. Abahlali basemjondolo is an organization with the aims of taking the politicians to task and asking them to address the housing shortage. Abahlali basemjondolo fights for social justice and other practices inherited from apartheid governments, such as forced evictions and forced evictions of the homeless. They have faced with the sort of the legacy inherited from apartheid, with things like institutionalized violence with the police. Obviously, the reaction of the political elites has been to face for abductions on members of the Abahlali Basem Jondolo. Now, South Africa is a society burdened with what the Boffins like to refer as structural violence, and I've been told by one of my friends that this refers to ideas such as the idea of the Kwerekwere, whose end result is the lowering of the quality of life for the victims, those who are at the receiving end of such practice. It might be a case of cooking the chicken with the feathers, a case of overdoing it. But I think it helps to point out that people from South Africa have contributed a lot to South African society, and people like Tendai the Beast, the man affectionately referred to by the sobriquet the Beast. He has been a success in rugby, and in academia we have the world famous University of Cape Town scientist Kelly Shibale, and then we have Professor Tawana Kupe, Vice Chancellor at Pretoria University. Then we have the academic who specializes in agricultural engineering at Stellenbosch University, Professor Linus Opara. In the corporate world, the world of industry and business, we have foreigners like, people from across the borders of South Africa, like Clinton Howe, CEO of Cleandale Corporation, a company specializing in the oil industry with a listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And then we have Godfrey Gomwe, who is head of CEO of the coal mining giant MC Mining. Now, at this point in time, one might be forgiven for pointing out that in a society as diverse as South Africa, I have decided not to speak of a wide segment of the population. This is simply for the reason that the Kwerekwere epithet has been used by black South Africans to denigrate other black Africans from those from outside South Africa's borders. Now we've got an organization by the name of Operation Dudula, and this organization has openly been campaigning against black Africans from across South Africa's borders, and the officials from the government, that is the police, they seem not to turn a blind eye, and the actions of the bigots in Operation Dudula, they seem not to attract the attention of law enforcement, and Operation Dudula has become notorious for raiding businesses belonging to foreign nationals or those perceived to be foreigners and forcing those shops to close. And it's not that politicians from across the political spectrum has not actually noticed that something is wrong with the way South Africans react to the presence of foreigner, other black Africans in their midst. Julius Malema has warned of such evils as the bigotry that comes with organizations like Operation Dudula, and he has warned that South Africans at some point will run out of foreigners to blame, and he has warned that that such bigotry poses a threat to the integrity of South Africa itself, and in the sense that the South Africans will turn inwards and blame minor ethnic groups from, say, from the north of South Africa, and those will be vilified in the place of those from across borders. Thank you for listening, and I have tried to keep this piece as short as possible, and forgive me if those long words have crept into this discussion. It is simply that at times there are no substitute for those fancy terms. And once again, merci beaucoup, as they say in French. And if you like what I have just touched on, please give me some likes, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.